Welcome everyone to this webinar about COLLEAD SPS training plan.
Welcome everybody and welcome to this seminar on COLLEAD SPS training plan. I hope that you can hear me.
Just some practical information before we really start. This session will be partially in French, partially in English. So there's an interpretation service available for you to understand when we speak the other language. You can activate it when you look down your screen. You can find a button, either it's interpretation with the globe, it's already there, or you have the three dots with more available, and clicking on this one, you'll find the interpretation button, and you can select the channel that suits you most.
Very quickly, this is today's agenda. First of all, we're going to have an introduction by my colleague Nursel Bouzumsga. Then a short description of the training plan. What is a training plan in general terms? And then I'll give the floor to Bruno Schiffer, who will go into details and describe the SPS plan. Sanitary and phytosanitary standards. And we shall conclude the session with a testimonial by the DPV Senegal. It will be presented by Assa Balayera Diouf, and next we shall have a short questions and answer session for you to share your thoughts and possibly ask for clarifications. So without further ado, I now give the floor to Nursel. Thank you, Laura.
Welcome to everybody. So my introduction will be very short. I wanted just to remind why it is important for us for COLLEAD to work with competent authorities. Most our programs, including Fit for Market Plus, under which this webinar is organized today, are aiming at supporting the MSMEs, horticultural companies, to access market. And to achieve this goal, we, of course, mostly work directly with MSMEs and companies, but we work also with the environment of these companies, such as expert service providers or professional organization. And the objective of this is to make sure that this environment provides the support that the company would need to improve all the factors that needs to be improved to access the market they are targeting. If you see this slide, you see that in the environment, we have the competent authorities, which was represented in a bigger size than other targets of our program. And it's the competent authorities, because for us, it's important, of course, to work with competent authorities, because when it comes to accessing markets, whatever markets, and especially export markets, the company need to comply with some regulation, maybe. And if you don't work with competent authorities who have the authority on those SPS issues, it's impossible for companies to export. That's the reason why. But it's true for local market as well when it comes to improving the quality of sanitary and phytosanitary quality of the produce for the local market. That's all I wanted to say. Just most of you, if not all of you, are already in contact with my colleagues from technical assistance. If you have some question, maybe regarding the support that we could give you after the presentation, the webinar, do not hesitate to contact us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll continue in English too. And while I'm explaining what is a training plan in general, feel free to present yourself in the chat so we know a bit more who is with us today. Yeah, let us know from where, if you're working for a competent authority or not, and from which country you are. That would be great. Okay, so what is a training plan exactly? Basically, a training plan is some kind of management tool that enables you to organize, structure, and prioritize any training needs, any training initiatives, better, that you have within your organization. And the idea is, with this training plan, to be able to anticipate, organize, and optimize the development of skills to improve both performance and professional development of individuals within your organization. So there are different objectives, in a training plan. There's 4 of them. First, there's a strategic objective, which is to align the skills that your organization needs with, and at the same time support its development, whether it's from a technological point of view, a regulatory one, an organizational one, and so on and so on. Then there's an operational objective to improve the efficiency and the quality of the work by reducing the performance gaps you may have and developing versatility. Third, you have a social human resources purpose. It's in your interest to promote the motivation, the professional fulfillment, the loyalty, but also ensure equal access to training, no matter the gender, the age, the status, and so on and so on. And finally, the last one is a regulatory objective. Depending on your country, there might be some legal obligation to provide training to your employees. Or if you are certified, maybe the private standard, you are applying a request that the employees are trained once a year, for example. And then there's also the need to prevent any professional risks. So you need to train your people on how to take care of their health, on their own safety, on the environmental safety too. There's all this kind of element to consider. Within a training plan, you'll find different components. First of all, the purpose and the objective. But you'll find also all the processes, the tasks, the activities that need to be carried out within this activity. You'll find who's the target audience, which jobs are concerned, are they manager, executive, technical teams, workers, what are the skills they need also to be able to do their job. In this plant, you'll do a need analysis to measure the skills gaps between what you are expecting and what is the reality. So these skills gaps are done through interviews, appraisals, result performance, different kind of activity like this. You'll have the different action that you plan. This are organized in training path most of the time. Could be compulsory training, personal development. You'll get there also all the details in terms of teaching methods and this kind of thing. You'll find, of course, a calendar. When are these training organized? How long does it take to organize them? Should it be aligned with certain moment of the year where there's a specific work that has to be done? How many people are going to be trained at that time, and so on. And the two last component, it's budget and resources, the cost, the fundings, where do you find also the material, the human resources, these aspects. And finally, the monitoring and evaluation indicators. How many people came to the training? Were they satisfied? Did we reach the objective with this training? So those are the 8 main components of a training plan, no matter if it's an SPS one or another one. So in practice, and this is where Bruno's presentation is going to be very, very interesting, I believe, for all of you also, is that beyond this plan, what is it used for? Is that it's something for you to be able to know what mission you're supposed to be carried out. It enables you to compare the different process that you have within your organization with some theoretical process and do some kind of benchmarking of where you are compared to those theoretical process. And that way you can identify if there's any mission that is not fulfilled or just partially fulfilled, if there's any needs that need to be changed, anything you need to correct, to reinforce, to improve. And that will guide you for delivering training and really identify to who you need to deliver the training, what are the prerequisites, what are the skills you need to train your people on, what is the level of performance the people you expect the people to reach. So those are, in a few words, what is a training plan in a global way. I'm not going to spend much more time on that, and I'm going to leave the floor to Bruno. So Bruno is an agricultural engineer. I think it's how we said it at the time, at least. He used to be a professor in Jean Blou, head of the pharmacy laboratory in Jean Blou Agrobiotech. And he spent about 40 years in research and as an expert in risk assessment. If I can summarize just in in those few lines, your expertise is a very reduced way to present you, Bruno. But yeah, the most is important, I think, is there. So I'll leave you the floor.
Thanks a lot, Laura. Thank you for your kind introduction. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon from every country you live in. I know that there are many members, many delegates with us today, and I'm particularly pleased to speak to all those people, you coming from different horizons. So I'm particularly happy as well to describe this tool today because it is the end of a long team work with Collead. You have many people in Collead who took part in the development of this tool. It is a real achievement. And as I present, as I make my presentation, you will understand what I mean. We had to develop, for instance, job descriptions. We had to develop over time a number of trainings to reinforce skills of those people concerned. And now we are developing training pathways or training plans in which those pathways are being organized, the aim being to reinforce performance of a system or of an organization. So this tool, we'll see how this tool can be used to structure skills development in both SPS fields, that is food safety and plant health. The aim of this presentation will be to understand, first of all, what the training plan is, what do we want to do, what do we want to achieve, why is it essential to have an SPS system when working in a given system, a national organization for plant protection, for instance. How can this tool structure the tasks of a competent authority? And for this, we need to describe processes so as to be able to identify the missions which are entrusted with the competent authority. What activities should be implemented to achieve those missions, to carry out those missions. And then finally, we'll see how you can move from a skill assessment, a skill diagnosis, to training planning, the aim being to fill the gaps which appear at the time of the skills assessment. So this tool was designed to help organizations, and I would like us to go back to the first slide, please. So the purpose of this tool is to help official services to structure their approach to training. When it comes to a training plan in the SPS field, of course, this tool would be is intended for competent authorities which are involved in risks in the areas of food safety and plant health. The idea basically was to have a common method, was to develop a common method that would be applicable not only to individuals, but also to services and for an organization as a whole. This training plan is a way to acquire a comprehensive view and to assess the performance of an SPS system. So first of all, why do we need an SPS training plan? First of all, we've got to see to focus on SPS. What is SPS? SPS is a major issue because it has to do with public health, environmental protection, but also economy and access to international markets. And experience. We've been working with lots of competent authorities in many countries, Africa, Caribbean, Pacific. We've noticed, based on our experience, that SPS systems are fragmented. The different authorities, sound is very poor, sorry. The different authorities do not always coordinate their actions as they should. And finally, the skills that are available inside those within these competent authorities not always match the needs on the ground, that is the missions and responsibilities of the competent authority. And here our tool, our colleague tool, this is where our colleague tool comes in. It is going to help structure the missions of the SPS system and steer skills development. As Laura said, it is a strategic management tool that will allow us to identify actual skill needs, to plan the actions needed to meet them, to align training courses with institutional authority priorities, and finally to ensure consistency between departments and teams working within the competent authority.
We have a great training plan, and that we have a clear pathway for the development personnel or for the service. This will help to motivate the staff and also to improve the quality of the work and also of the SPS system, as we are going to improve the performance of the system. Next slide, please. Thank you. So to make sure the system works correctly, in the co-lead, we have studied the way the SPS system works, and we found out it was possible to map the processes to see how the tasks are organized, and we preferred to work dividing the tasks in processes. And we identified 17 great processes which will be subdivided in sub-processes, which can amount to up to tens of sub-processes, which are organized in 4 big blocks. For the controls, the official controls based on risk assessment to work, we have all the operational processes, but around them we of course need governance processes, we need communication and relationship dynamics between the stakeholders to be put in place, and also capacity building and training of the staff and training. So this means that there are a series of processes, 2 processes for governance, we have 2 processes for communication, and 2 processes for capacity building. Next slide, please. So if we have a global look on how an SPS system works, we may see that the processes must contribute to have 5 steps to be working perfectly within the SPS system. The first step is a risk assessment. We need to know what the risks we are confronted with, what is the importance of these risks, how we have to prioritize these risks. This means that we proceed to risk ranking, classifying the SPS risks. Once we know those risks, that we measure their impact on the country, on the economy of the country, we may decide, according to this prioritization, to program official control based on risks and to plan all the actions that the competent authority will have to take. This program, these programs are the control and monitoring plans that need to be implemented, and that will be the next step. That is the planning of the actions, i.e. when will we intervene, at which step in the food chain, where for the quarantine bodies are of course actions that need to be taken on the field, actions that need to be taken on the borders, certification, etc. All these actions and the results of these actions will allow to assess better the risk and adjust the control program and the processes that are used for this purpose. Next slide, please. So the first part are the 2 governance processes, and this relates to all the policies that are implemented to achieve the strategic vision in the SPS field. That is the establishment, the coordination and governance of a national SPS control system, and the implementation of structures, the assessment of the regulations, and then there's of course a second process. A characteristic of the process is that it is evolving. So the assessment process needs to be constantly improved, because there are new risks that can occur, emergent risks, but also regulations are changing. So we need to adapt to the new regulations or risks that may appear within the country, or the need that to improve or change an approach. These are the governance processes. As for the operational processes, we're talking about all the activities that are needed to comply with regulations and legislation. Of course, we have all the processes of risk assessment, the determination of SPS measures for the control of harmful organisms, the programming and planning of official controls, the checking of inputs and goods, the plant health control, the phytosanitary certification of plants and plant products. Yes. Next slide, please. Then the organization of the pest control pre and post harvest, the mentoring and inspecting of the producers, or that is everything that is related to primary production, processing, and packing of the food or the feed, the preparation of dossiers for market access, the organization and management of an alert system, and finally a system allowing to register the inputs, the pesticides, veterinary medication, biocides, etc., which are based on risks. These are the main processes, the operational processes. Afterwards, you have to consider the communication processes, the interaction with the different stakeholders. For the communication, we're talking about the risks, and especially the crisis management and the interaction with the stakeholders. That is the way in which you will establish a dialogue between the public and the private sectors, in particular in the case of self-control, and the implementation of good practices. And finally, but not least, we have capacity building, the assessment of the needs for this capacity building, and also the improvement in the training in communication, which is very important in organizations, in particular for the national plant protection organizations, because they need to train their agents with the knowledge that they have accumulated internally. So this division in different processes, and here you have an example of a process for pest control. I will not describe it in detail because it would take too much time, but as you can see, it is divided in several steps, and we also mentioned, when needed, the use of a sub-process, and in this case, if you see the first line, if you read the first line, it's the NIMP number 6, the ISPM number 6 that needs to be put in place, the implementing pest surveillance, that this is an international standard that need to be used, and we described the different sub-processes in order to integrate them in the pest control pre and post harvest in this case. All right, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes. So we want to have an overall view of the tasks, and that's important because thanks to the use of these processes, we can define the different tasks, and we have described them step by step. We also have a reference now allowing us to make a diagnosis of the system and identify the processes that are lacking or that are failing. And therefore, we can use several tools, and I don't know if you know that Collead has developed a tool called RSAT, which is a rapid SPS assessment tool, which allows to detect the failures or the lackings in the system and the steps that need to be improved. So thanks to this approach by processes, we can target those processes which present a problem, identify in the process which steps are problematic, and understand the origin of the problems that might be met on a daily basis. Next slide, please. So when we want to improve or try to improve the performance of a system, where should we start? Well, very often the main issue is the skills gap of the managers. So to know if they have what they need, we need to know what are the professional situations of the managers, and the processes describe these professional situations that the managers and these agents have to face to detect risks or fight against risks in a specific service. So the process that describes the whole of the activities that are organized corresponds to one step or several steps when we are looking at a professional situation. So the first thing to do is what the people in charge are doing. And then we have to identify in the 17 process who is in charge or who participates in the implementation of these processes. And there we worked with TL, and we launched a consultation to focus groups with different competent authorities to identify 26 professions to see who intervenes in the competent authorities for managing the SPS risks. And this brought us to 26 job description sheets. And here there's a link between the processes and the jobs, the occupations. Here you see 26 occupations divided in 3 senior managers, 10 middle managers. It is, for example, the person in charge of the pest control. That's a manager, it's a managing function, and 13 executive functions, of which 2 refer to capacity building and training. And I'm giving here some examples. The job name in our job description sheet, and in the second column where the person is involved in a specific process. For example, the director of a National Plant Protection Organization has many tasks, many responsibilities, so he is involved in a number of processes. As you can see here in this example, he is involved in P1, P2, P5, P7, etc. The head of phytosanitary control is involved in 3 processes in the example that I give you here. The agent is involved in 2 processes only, sometimes the same as those of the head of the phytosanitary control, even if they're involved at different levels, but they are involved in the same process. And the expert in phytosanitary diagnosis is also involved in a diagnosis process, but also in a more general process like can be processes P8 and P9. So everyone organizes his SPS system according to their needs. In your organization, you will look who is involved in the different processes, because according to the job description of your sheets, you will know what responsibilities they have to take. So you have to establish this link between the process and the job to know exactly what task will be given to each one of the persons that are involved in the SPS system. Here are these detailed job description sheets that I was talking about. You will find on the co-lead side catalog of the different occupations, of the different job descriptions, but we also have more detailed job description sheets. In the catalog you will find the main tasks, the main missions that appear, but we also have more developed, more comprehensive job description sheets in which each mission is divided in activities, and you can have up to 10 different activities for a same mission. or assignment. So you will be able to see, when you have the detail of activities, what skills are needed. And when I'm talking about skills, I'm talking about the knowledge, about the know-how that, for example, the director of a National Plant Protection Office needs, what he must be able to do on a daily basis and practically. And finally, the third kind of skill that we are expecting is the relational skills. For example, the director of the MPPO must be able to question himself, to motivate his team. So there are a series of soft skills that are needed to define correctly the activities, allow to identify more precisely what skills are expected. Next slide, please. So when we prepare a training plan, the first thing we might do is analyze the different services, see what are the missions and activities of each of the services. You could see, for example, talk about the present situation, but also the expected situation of the organization, the MPPO, for example, or of a specific service. For example, a service that is in charge of certifications or border control or monitoring or pest control. So here, the present situation is, what are we doing right now? How many agents do we have? What are their missions, their tasks? And then on the other side, you have how do we expect this organization to evolve? What are the projects that we need to implement? Do we want to deal with new markets, for example? Is there any evolution that we might expect because of changes in regulation or because of the presence of certain pests which might be particularly relevant considering the kind of vegetal product we want to export on sensitive markets like Europe? So these are the forecasted evolutions, and then according to the present situation and the forecasted situation, we will identify a series of skills that are needed. Using the job description sheets, we will convert the needs in skills in goals for training. And here the skills need or competences need is a balance we make and where we look what the skills are that are good, that need to be improved, that are lacking. And considering this need of skills, we will define a training need. And there, as Laura explained, we will define at which level we need to do the training. Are we still only talking about raising awareness, or do we need to go further? And we also will see what modalities are best adapted to the training we want to give to the agents according to the amount of people, the time available, the prerequisites, and we could give the training online or in person. It could be through exercises, through theoretical lectures, it could be case studies or tasks. So there are different training modalities that we can imagine and that I will not detail here because it would take so much time.
And finally, we shall prioritize these trainings, organize them based on the service, based on the agents, and based on that, we shall define training pathways. But for defining such training pathways, we need a plan to get something organized. And this summarizes what I've just said, and I'm not going to repeat it. First of all, measure skills gaps, translate needs into learning objectives, determine a training path, and finally, what I didn't say, group those parts together by department or by organization into a training plan. And based on that, you will obtain a collective progression path. The aim being to improve the process globally, which means that it goes beyond individual progression or department progression. It's much wider, as shown on this slide. So starting from the system performance diagnosis, here we work based on services. As you can see, we have identified processes which are implemented in service number 1, the occupations at stake, and based on that, we've been able to identify training needs. And the head of department is going to centralize all those data and make sure individual needs are identified for each employee, for each agent. And finally, ultimately, there will be a training plan for service number 1, for service number 2, service number 3. And finally, those different training plans will be submitted to the an NPO manager, for instance, who, in coordination with human resources, will check whether those plans are relevant and if the resources needed are available. And only after that, a training plan will be approved at the level of the organization, or it will remain at the level of a service. Just to show you that a training plan can be a micro plan. It can be operational at the level of a single service, but it can also apply to an entire SPS system, which means that you are not obliged to work on the whole of a competent authority. Skills can be improved at the level of a single service only. And this is my conclusion. There will be 4 steps. First of all, we diagnose the performance of the system and we identify skills gaps. Secondly, these gaps are translated into learning objectives. Thirdly, individual training paths are defined for each employee. And finally, those paths are combined, the aim being to develop a collective training plan that is consistent across the entire department, the entire organization, if you like. So this co-lead tool allows to move from an abstract vision of SPS missions to operational planning for training. And this is my last slide. The entire process, first of all, understand the needs with a system assessment resulting in a skills diagnosis, then prioritization to define progression or improvement objectives. What is the purpose? Where do we want to increase performance in a given competent authority? Once these objectives have been defined, for instance, decrease the number of interceptions at border level of a given a pest, for instance, Podoptera, because it is relevant. Yes, we have to cut interceptions by 50% or by 90%. Based on that, we know that it is important to act, to do something, and based on that, learning objectives will be defined, training will be defined in the form of pathways, and finally, the most difficult task, namely to have agents able to steer those training plans. For that, we need resources, manage human resources, and that is people and also material resources. this has to do with logistics as a whole. That's all I wanted to tell you today about this tool. It is pretty complex and not very easy to implement. As Laura told you, there are 8 different points, 8 different aspects, and this is not easy work. You need to master the tool based on the resources at your disposal, and you must conduct the exercise at least once to be aware of the connections between the different elements, because we all work in our own way within our own organizations. So how, as an agent, can I do something based on what I've heard today for my service or for my organization? Thank you very much, Bruno. It was very clear, very practical, down to earth. The different steps were explained clearly. Please don't hesitate to ask questions in the chat and in the Q&A tool in Zoom. And we shall try to provide answers at the end of the webinar. But now I'm going to invite another speaker, namely Asabalaya Diouf, who is a manager of DPV in Senegal. And she had the opportunity to implement this approach in the framework of a STDF 946 project, the objective of which is to increase phytosanitary skills and to contribute to whatever has to do with food security, development of experts, horticulture in Senegal. Mrs. Balayara, I give you the floor. Hello, I hope you can hear me. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. This is going to be a testimonial because we've been using this plan indeed. We've been using this tool to strengthen the skills of our technicians and managers and executives and other DPV stakeholders. And I would like to make a short presentation to describe what we did. First of all, I would like to apologize because my video cannot be displayed, but as long as you can hear me, it's okay. First of all, I'm going to describe the way in which we are organized. I'm going to describe the missions and facilities of our training center. We are lucky because we are an NPPO with a training center. And finally, I shall speak about how to reinforce skills and competencies of those involved in the National Plant Health System. Concerning the organizational chart of DPV. Sorry, the sound is coming and going. The management is at the top, of course, secretariat, admin, finance. We have labs. We have 4 labs, phytosanitary, phytopharmacy, nematology, agricultural zoology, and weed science. And in addition to that, we have 3 divisions, culture, defense, agricultural warning, and phytosanitary legislation and plant quarantine. And as I told you, we have 8 warning and surveillance bases, which are connected to the different agroecological regions in Senegal. And we also have phytosanitary control stations regarding the missions and facilities of our center, they can be described as follows. First of all, our mission, and this is extracted directly from the decree which implemented our LNPO. So can we move back to the previous? Yes, here it is. We're in charge of retraining and the advanced training of DPV managers and technicians. We provide training to producers as well. We organize seminars and training courses at an NPO level in conjunction with the structures. And once again, the sound comes and goes. Sorry. At the training center, we have one training room with 50 seats. We also have... Can you hear me? Says a speaker. Yes, we can hear you. It's a bit difficult, but we can hear you. Okay. Because my internet is not that stable, so I'll try to hurry up to keep the connection. So as I told you, we have a training room at the training center with 50 seats, 2 admin offices, one for coordination and one for educational support. We have a restaurant with a kitchen and 2 dining rooms. We also have a dormitory, 5 rooms with 4 beds each. And it's an old-fashioned building, if you like, because we have shared outdoor toilets. And of course, a precious asset, it's our demonstration plots and our experimental plots. Each time we have trainees, they work on those plots on topics like plant protection using natural products, eco-friendly products. Once again, the speaker is gone. We also provide training to producers and to students, as you can see on the picture at the bottom. Now, regarding how to strengthen the skills and competencies of stakeholders, I must say that project STD-FPG 946 has given us major support, which resulted in achievement number 3. The aim was to strengthen the skills and competencies of our executives and technicians and of other stakeholders. The aim was also to implement the different processes, phytosanitary processes at the national level. And among those results, experts came to visit us to assess training needs. They are still there with us. And we have cooperated, we've been cooperating with those experts. We gave them documentation because Mr. Bruno was talking about intervention fields and documentations. All those documents I needed to produce a plan. And so we have had online meetings with experts, and we are testing also the survey form which is available. Still with those consultants, we exercised an approach based on the SPS plan as defined by co-lead. We identified training needs of DVP agents, and the questionnaire had been filled by the colleagues, and based on their responses, we were able to identify needs, and also we worked on a proposal for the distribution of NPPO agents by profession according to the co-lead professional reference framework. And also an analysis was performed, an analysis on the functioning of the training center. Of course, you can identify needs and requirements, but, and once again, sound's gone. Sorry. The form was circulated among the colleagues and used to collect information on different aspects like general characteristics of DPV staff, levels of technical and cross-disciplinary skills, specific capacity building needs, availability of job descriptions, data management methods, preferences for training formats, and also proposals for optimizing the training system. We were able to map the workforce of our DPV employees to identify jobs, missions, and the skills required. We had to define sometimes if there were job descriptions or not, and not all occupations were represented at DPV, so we were not aligned with the system. We were able to identify skills gaps and propose training modules. The identification of needs. We were able to identify the needs and shortcomings of DPV's technical staff in SPS matters, to develop training program for managers and technicians, and to capitalize an appropriation by the training center of the training program and its implementation. And this last item is particularly important because if, as a manager of a training center, if as long as I have a plan, as long as I have a program showing that I have failed in my major mission. You know, there are major missions, but there are also minor missions. Stakeholders training is particularly important in that respect. Just to tell you that this SPS project is extremely cost efficient for the training center. It allows us to capitalize on what we have and to take ownership of what we have. And this brings me to the last slide. Thank you very much for your attention. And if you have questions, of course, I will be pleased to answer. And I would also like to thank the STDF project. Thank you, co-lead, and thank you to all the colleagues for their work and cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this testimony. It's so interesting to see how you implemented the training plan. I will be reading the expert's report at the end of this mission. When you say that some jobs were not aligned with the co-lead descriptions, I would like to know if it are jobs that we didn't include in our referential, or if there are several different jobs that you have combined. I don't know, could you maybe explain what the differences are like? Otherwise, I will have a look at it in the report of our experts. Okay. I know that Nala is among the listeners, so maybe Nala, if you feel like answering this question, do not hesitate to raise your hand if you're able to provide an answer to this question instead of Mrs. Balayara. I saw your hand raised, but if you, I have you at the end of the list, so I had a hard time finding you. So Nala, you are with us. Please, you have the floor. But there was a slight issue. Yes, I don't know why my microphone was turned off, and it's not on my side. I hope now that everything is ready. Valerie, please, do you hear me? Can you please confirm for Laura that everything's working now? Valerie? Okay. Yes, it's fine. So to answer to what Asa said, if I may use her first name, it's not a problem that you do not have a perfect match of the jobs. We did a theoretical exercise. We identified 26 job descriptions, 26 occupations, but each organization is of its kind and has its way of working. The responsibilities and tasks may be different, attributed to one or another person. So in one NPPO, you can have one person in charge of the monitoring, which can be a manager, whereas in another NPPO, um, it can be someone who is assigned as a manager of monitoring. But what is important is to make sure that all the jobs that we have listed, that we consider crucial in the SPS, are indeed fulfilled by one or another manager. Of course, the distribution can vary from one NPPO to the other, and that's the difference between a job description sheet for a specific post, for a specific occupation, and a post sheet, which considers or takes into account the local specificities of the way an organization is organized. And very often these post sheets are specific to one organization or the other. It's very difficult to proceed to a transfer because there can be historical reasons behind it, or maybe there are also occupations that do not exist yet, like for example a person in charge for the data management. This is a occupation, a job that is emerging and becomes ever more necessary. But no, not everyone has the possibility to have a specialized agent for that purpose. So this is a reference, it's a basis, but of course you need to adapt it to the local context. However, the important thing is to keep coherence between the missions, the tasks that have to be fulfilled, and see if the people who are fulfilling them have the needed competences and skills. You need to remain practical, in other words. Well, thank you, Bruno, for this clarification. We have a question of Mr. Modul Lamin Tanayang, who is based in Gambia, and he asks us if we can explain the SPS plan defined by COLI, the profession reference framework and job description. Now we can get access to these materials. Okay. We are not going to repeat the presentations because there are many things that were said by Bruno earlier in the webinar. So I believe there are several answers you will find to this question in the recording that will be available to you at the end of this session. You will be also able to access the PowerPoint presentations that were used. I already shared the catalog of the job description sheets in the chat. These sheets are available in French and English. This, as you have seen in the presentation of Bruno, it is a bit limited. We did not define all the skills and competences needed in the catalog. However, it's something that we can share with you. So the idea is at the end of this session, I would ask you to return to go to support.colead.link, sorry, at colead.link to have access to the profession reference framework in regard to the SPS training plan, and of course we would like you to specify what organization you are from, what partners you have, and if you don't have a development or a project yet, we can maybe keep trace that we have shared the information with you, allowing us to go further in the uh, assistance, as we already did with the DPV in Senegal, to use this SPS plan in a practical way and adapt it to your reality. So I hope that this answered the question of Mr. Lamine. I had a question for Mrs. Balayera or Bruno. Maybe you want to add something on what I just said to Mr. Lamine? No, but I wanted to ask the answer to Mr. Alidou, that who says that in the service are several agents in charge of monitoring and diagnosis. So if that's the case, will they all be called managers for monitoring and diagnosis? Well, no. We understand that a person in charge is either a manager or a head of a department. It is someone who will coordinate the action of all the agents involved in surveillance or monitoring and diagnosis. It's not always easy to put a name on a job. You can call it head of service, you can call him manager, you can call him whatever. Anyone can do that, but of course there are agents who will be on the field in charge of monitoring, and if you have 15 to 20 agents, for example, in the MPPO who are doing the actual monitoring, they certainly have a boss who is in charge of monitoring. The same thing is true for the diagnosis in the lab. We must not, of course, mix up what is the part on the field, i.e. the sampling and the diagnosis. So if you have someone in charge of the diagnosis in the laboratory, of course, then that person will be called the manager. You have to read the sheet, and next to the job description, we have put synonyms that are those that we heard in our focus groups from our friend Emmanuel Prenier, our colleague who was organizing these focus groups with Laura, and met several people to know how the jobs are called in French and in English. So if you have any suggestion, do not hesitate to do so. We are certified ISO 21001, which means that we are giving the importance to a continuous improvement. It's an evolutionary system, so if it's also evolving thanks to you, so if you have things to tell us, do not hesitate to tell us. This will improve the tool. Of course, Bruno, and in the catalog that I'm sharing here, we have 63 data sheet. We now increase that number to 70. So this is a work in process all the time, and we can do this. Thank you to your input. I had a small question, Mrs. Balayera. Maybe you are the manager of the training center of the DPV. Do you have your equivalent for what is food safety? Yes, we do. And how is he organized, or are there some differences? There is not a real difference. Everything is centralized, and very often the trainings come from the division legislation and quarantine. We provide the room, the restaurant, and we also participate to the form training. So it's one single unit, let's say. Okay. I was asking that because Nerso also said in the chat that the examples that we provided today were focused on NPPOs, but what we explained here can perfectly be extended to other competent authorities who are more related to sanitary safety or food safety. I do not see many questions in the chat or in the Q&A section. Maybe Marcel wants to say something. Well, yes, I had a question. I don't know if Bruno will be able to provide an answer. Thank you very much for your presentations and for the testimony of Mrs. Balayar Abdiouf. Maybe that for all the participants, this seems to be a piece of cake, but as a matter of fact, there's a lot to do. Maybe because I see it in a comprehensive way, but I wanted to ask Bruno, if we were to undertake this work block by block, how would you address this? Department by department or process by process? How would we embark on this process where we need to meet a lot of people, coordinate with everyone just to test the system? Maybe also for the most important processes or those who may generate more problems. How would you proceed? Well, thank you, Nurcel. I am very surprised that you don't feel up to take up a gigantic task. You are always there to fight. Yes, you're right. I just gave some steps, but I believe that Mrs. Assal Balayara Diouf has done very well to show an organogram, an organizational chart first. This is what you need to have for starters, and then decide to work service by service with the people who want to use this methodology. I don't believe there's a process that is more necessary than any others. They're all necessary, otherwise the system wouldn't work properly. But if you're working by service with the people who are willing to participate, and I believe, the first thing would be to say, okay, let's map our own processes. Let's say I'm the MPPO of Sierra Leone and that I'm already in function. Can I prepare an organizational chart and see what processes are used in the different services? And in comparing this with our plan, do I implement 2, 3, 4 of these processes? And if some are missing, can I see where I have to fill the gaps? Don't forget what I said. This is a tool of the co-lead, but we have many others, like, for example, the RSAT. We have a assessment system of the global SPS system, allowing to show where there might be bottlenecks or problems in the system, and maybe you should start with this, establish a diagnosis of your system, and then in the next step see who's involved in the system, and or where do we have a problem with the different tasks. And there we can look at the occupational sheets, see if the job description are in line with the tasks that are filled out, and are the people qualified, and then see if there are some matches or if there is a need of training, and see if the things are well balanced between the responsibilities. I will take an example that everybody knows probably. In the SPS, for assessment, we cannot call upon managers because this can generate a conflict of interest. If you're a manager, you can't be an assessor and a evaluator. So we have to identify the different things and individually ask to the agents in an interview, in a questionnaire, to see what the level of knowledge is of each of them. Am I a beginner? Am I an expert? Can I teach others to do my job? But you're right, nurse. So it's not an easy task if we want to cover the entire process. I believe the best thing is to fragment, to have a training plan for a specific department or service, and then extend it to all the services.
Thank you, Bruno. Yes, RSAT can help. In Mali, for instance, I know that you are currently assessing phytosanitary skills, and we'll certainly be able to extract leads for improvement from that. There are other possible items to be identified, but indeed working on a service basis to take ownership of the system, piece after piece, and it makes it easier to duplicate to the entire service or the entire system. Thank you very much, Bruno. Thank you very much, Marcel, for the question. I don't have any more questions in the chat, neither in the Q&A section of Zoom, unless a panelist wants to take the floor again. I think that we might conclude. Marcel, you would like to conclude this webinar? No, I have nothing special to say. First, once again, thank you to all delegates, to all participants. I would like to note that some of them are already in close contact with us. Do not hesitate to share the support address, which is a way to approach us if in case it's unclear to you who you should contact, but don't hesitate. Don't forget to keep exchanging among countries, among structures on the need for such tools. If when receiving such tools you require more information, or it is sometimes difficult indeed to ask questions just after a webinar, but once the tools will be made available to you, and if you have questions, don't hesitate. For instance, questions on job descriptions and the way in which they are described. Yes, we are always happy to be part of the process, the aim being also to improve ourselves. Thank you very much, Bruno, for your clear explanations, as usual. Thank you to Mrs. Asabalaya Diouf. And to the lady who intervened, thank you, Laura. And thank you, Valerie, and thank you interpreters. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.